Robin Dunbar, University of Oxford; Paul Lurquin, Washington State University; Fred Smith, Illinois State University; Simon Underdown, Oxford Brookes University; and Bernard Wood, George Washington University. I am very grateful to Clark Larson, Ohio State University, for his reading of both the proposal and the entire manuscript, as well as answering specific questions. I am also grateful to Deborah Bolnick, University of Texas, and P. Thomas Schernenman, Indiana University, for their assistance. Finally, I have to give thanks to my wife, Holly Jaffe, for support and guidance throughout this book, my career, and my life. Introduction: Myths and Misconceptions, or How and Why I Wrote This Book. What is a myth, and what are the myths of human evolution? I started giving these questions some thought several years ago when I was approached by the publisher to submit a proposal for a book to be called 50 Great Myths of Human Evolution. They had already published a book on misconceptions in psychology entitled 50 Great Myths of Popular Psychology, and were interested in publishing more books along the same line, focusing on the 50 great myths of various fields, including human evolution. I was intrigued by the suggestion, as I had been contemplating a general book on human origins and evolution for a while. However, I was a little apprehensive about how to approach the idea of myths in human evolution. Like many words, the term myth has both narrow and broad meanings. My apprehension stemmed from a narrow interpretation of myth. A narrow meaning of myth refers to the stories about Greek and Roman gods that I studied in a college mythology class. According to the online version of the Oxford English Dictionary, www.oed.com, a definition that would fit here is a traditional story, typically involving supernatural beings or forces, which embodies and provides an explanation, etiology, or justification for something such as the early history of a society, a religious belief or ritual, or a natural phenomenon. This definition does not fit with what I wanted to do with this book, as I wanted to go beyond the idea of simply examining stories about human origins, but instead wanted to look at different ideas and misconceptions regarding human evolution and, in particular, illustrate how scientific research often leads us to reject old ideas and consider new ones. In this book, I use a broader definition of myth that is closer to the second definition given by the Oxford English Dictionary: a widespread but untrue or erroneous story or belief, a widely held misconception, a misrepresentation of the truth. The myths in this book examine a number of ideas concerning human origins and evolution that fit this broader definition, focusing on misconceptions. Hence the subtitle of this book. There are different types of misconceptions that exist when discussing human evolution. Some of these misconceptions are simply not true, but persist over time, such as the popular notion that much of our species' evolution was influenced by extraterrestrials. Myth number 40. Some misconceptions arise from inaccuracies, incomplete data, and/or faulty assumptions, but somehow continue to perpetuate over time. An example from human evolution is the notion that the initial development of agriculture resulted in improved health. Myth 39. An idea possibly resulting from the faulty assumption that technological change in our species' evolution always results in progress across the board. Another common misconception is the idea that we no longer evolve. Myth 48. A conclusion reached only if we assume that our rapid cultural change completely negates biological change. Many of the myths deal with top